I grew up in the countryside, surrounded by endless fields and a sense of community that ran deep. My parents were small-scale farmers, just like my grandparents before them. In our little town, couples often found love right next door. Neighbors working side by side, growing together, and eventually tying the knot. My parents were no exception. They were childhood sweethearts who turned their shared dreams into a life together. Recently, they celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary, a testament to their enduring bond. As a child, I admired the simplicity of their love story. It was something I thought I'd replicate one day. When I was 22, I had my sights set on taking over the family business after finishing my studies in agronomy. Farming wasn't just a job, it was a way of life. I'd spend hours out in the fields feeling connected to the earth and to the legacy of my family. Little did I know, life had a very different plan for me, one that would challenge my ideas about love, trust, and the paths we choose. Among the few families in our area, we had neighbors who felt like an extension of our own. Olivia was one of them. She was 2 years younger than me, and we had grown up together, playing in the fields and sharing stories about our dreams. But while I was content with life in Springfield, Illinois, Olivia had bigger aspirations. She would often talk about moving to a big city like Los Angeles or New York, places where she believed her true destiny lay. Each time she spoke about leaving, it left a hollow feeling in my chest. Olivia's dreams weren't just idle fantasies. Her father's unexpected passing left her, and her mom struggling to keep their farm running. My dad and I stepped in to help where we could, offering advice and even proposing a lease agreement to ease their burden. It seemed like a win-win solution at the time, and they gratefully accepted. During that period, I mustered the courage to confess my feelings for Olivia. She had been a part of my life for as long as I could remember, and my admiration had grown into something deeper. To my surprise and relief, she wasn't caught off guard. It turned out she had been waiting for me to speak up. We started dating, and for a brief moment, it felt like everything was falling into place. But that happiness was short-lived. Within a few months, cracks began to show. I could sense Olivia's restlessness. Her dreams of leaving our small town weren't fading, they were growing louder. No matter how much I tried to be there for her, I couldn't compete with the allure of the life she envisioned for herself. And just like that, we parted ways. A week after Olivia and I broke up, I discovered the real reason behind it, a man from Los Angeles. He had come to town to sell a drone mapping service to local farmers, and his pitch was nothing short of mesmerizing. I'd attended one of his presentations out of curiosity. The technology seemed innovative, especially for a small town like ours where drones were practically unheard of. But it didn't take long for me to see through his charm. He was slick, confident, and all too good at dodging detailed questions about his so-called revolutionary system. The man was a classic con artist. His product was nothing more than a vague concept, but his charisma was enough to win over anyone who didn't ask too many questions. Unfortunately, Olivia was one of them. She not only bought into his non-existent system, but also agreed to invest in his business venture. It was a risky decision, and I tried to warn her. I told her he couldn't be trusted, but my words fell on deaf ears. To her, my concerns were just the bitter ramblings of an ex-boyfriend. It wasn't just her money that she gave him. It was her trust, her time, and her dreams. He filled her head with promises of success and escape, a chance to leave Springfield and finally live the glamorous life she'd always wanted. My warnings seemed petty in comparison to his grand vision. I'd often see his car parked near her property, a constant reminder of what I was up against. To make matters worse, Olivia convinced her mother to terminate our lease agreement on their land. They sold the property to another farmer, believing the money would help them start fresh in Los Angeles. As much as it hurt to lose the land, it was nothing compared to watching her walk away, hand in hand with a man I knew would betray her. Olivia and her mom packed their bags and left Springfield, chasing the dream the scammer had painted for them. They invested a significant portion of their savings into his venture, believing they were on the brink of a groundbreaking opportunity. But as I'd feared, it was all smoke and mirrors. About a year later, the truth came crashing down. The man vanished, taking their money with him. Word spread that he'd fled the country. Some said Uruguay. Others speculated about places even farther. Olivia bore the brunt of the fallout. Not only was she financially ruined, but she was also left pregnant and abandoned. It was a scandal in our small town when she returned with her mother, visibly pregnant, with no husband and no money. The dream she had left everything behind for was now a nightmare she couldn't escape. Back in Springfield, they managed to buy a smaller property using what little savings they had left. They tried to pick up the pieces, but nothing seemed to go right. First, they attempted to grow ornamental flowers, hoping to tap into a niche market, but the venture failed. Then they turned to raising chickens for meat, a seemingly practical choice. However, without the necessary experience, they lost a significant portion of their remaining money. One day, I ran into Olivia in town. She was heavily pregnant, over 8 months along, and looked worn down by the weight of her circumstances. She admitted she'd made a mistake. She told me I'd been right all along about the scammer and expressed regret for not listening to me. But there was something else in her tone, something that suggested she wanted to rekindle what we once had. I couldn't help but feel conflicted. My heart went out to her, but I knew I couldn't go back down that road. After her baby was born, Olivia made several attempts to reconnect with me. She'd show up at my house unexpectedly, using her daughter as a pretext. Her visits felt strange, almost calculated. It was clear she wanted more than just friendship, but I couldn't bring myself to engage. Our relationship had been built on trust, and that trust had been shattered long before. While I empathize with her struggles, I knew we couldn't rewrite the past. Life didn't get any easier for Olivia and her mother. Their small farm failed to produce the security they had once known. With no other options, they decided to try something completely different. They opened a small restaurant in town. It wasn't easy at first. They poured every remaining dollar into it and worked tirelessly to make it a success. For a while, it seemed like yet another uphill battle. But eventually, the restaurant found its footing. Today, Olivia and her mother live modestly. The restaurant has become a cornerstone of their livelihood, and though it's far from the life she once dreamed of, it provides stability. I often see Olivia standing outside, watching her daughter, who's now about 3 years old, play near the door. There's a weariness in her eyes, a reflection of all she's been through. But there's also a glimmer of hope, as if she's slowly piecing herself back together. Despite everything, Olivia hasn't stopped reaching out. Whenever I stop by the restaurant, I notice the way she looks at me, like she's searching for something she's lost. It's hard to describe, but her gaze carries a mix of regret and longing. And yet, I know deep down that whatever she's hoping for, it's something I can't give her. Too much has changed, and I've learned the hard way that some doors are better left closed. Olivia's life today is a far cry from the dream she once had. The bright lights of the big city, the glamorous lifestyle, and the promises of success have all faded into the background. Instead, she spends her days at the restaurant, juggling work and motherhood. Her daughter, a lively 3-year-old, is a constant reminder of the choices she made, the good and the bad. Though the restaurant provides a modest income, it's not the life of comfort and security she once imagined. When I see her now, I feel a complicated mix of emotions. There's sympathy for everything she's endured and admiration for her resilience. But there's also a quiet sense of vindication. I warned her, after all. Watching her navigate this new chapter of her life has taught me something important. We're all shaped by the choices we make, but some mistakes come with consequences we can't undo. Every so often, Olivia still tries to connect with me. Her silent pleas for help are hard to miss, but I've made peace with the fact that my role in her story has come to an end. What we had was real, but it's in the past. I hope she finds happiness, whether it's through her work, her daughter, or within herself. But I know, without a doubt, that her happiness won't be with me. Life is funny that way. We think we know what we want, only to realize too late that it wasn't what we needed. Olivia's story is a reminder that trust, honesty, and staying grounded are more valuable than the flashiest promises. I'll carry the lessons I've learned from her with me, not as regrets, but as wisdom. And as I watch her rebuild her life from afar, I can only wish her well.